I'm John J. Jurkas. I'm a candidate for Muskegon County Sheriff. I've got 25 years of law enforcement experience. I started my career in 1984 in Whitehall Police Department, then with Norton Shores Police Department shortly thereafter, and started the Muskegon County Sheriff Department. I'm the only candidate that's running for sheriff that has the experience of running and working in the jail, the courts, and the county's road patrol. I was a union steward for over 15 years. I retired from the department in 2010, April 1st. I own 2 businesses locally in Muskegon, and my wife and I run them. We have staff that works for us there. I've always wanted to be the sheriff, and what's going on down there today is, I think I can do a lot better job than what's currently being done.
What's going on down there today that you don't like?
Well, besides the overcrowding issues of the jail, the integrity of the sheriff's office, the trips with the bondsmen, and the way the employees are treated, the current sheriff won't communicate with anybody. He's broken ties with local municipalities. They need to rebuild those bridges. I have a goal when I elected to work with the other municipalities. I like to build the bridges back which we had before.
What's your educational background?
I graduated Muskegon County Central in 1978, attended Muskegon Community College, graduated from Muskegon Business College with a degree in business accounting in 1981 or 82, it was a long time ago. Grand Valley State Police Academy in 1984.
So how long have you been in the Sheriff's Department then?
I was in the Sheriff Department 23 years.
What's to say that you get elected sheriff and things don't change to the degree that they should? Does that mean people made a mistake in voting for you, or does that mean that the culture is so imbued there that nobody can change it?
Well, changes can be made, but lots of times you need a county board's approval. You need to work for the county board and the administrator. The county board holds the financial purse strings for over the county, okay? So you have to be able to work with them and work with the county administrators. And you work with the judges. So it's the sheriff, it's a major part of running the jail in his office. You need to realize the sheriff's budget is about $13 million, give or take. And the commissioners hold the purse strings. And so you have to be able to work and communicate with people along just in the county and in outside agencies. So that's what I plan. I'm sure I can communicate better with the outside agencies.
Okay, now you understand that the current sheriff has, for whatever reasons, eliminated the policy that would allow inmates to receive letters, pictures, and that sort of thing in the jail.
I'm aware of that.
And would you reinstate that policy if elected?
Well, what I want to do is when I get in there, I want to look at the reasons why. Well, when I worked in the jail, the inmates all received their letters. And the guards always opened the letters, took any contraband out, took off the stamps. So if the reason is he took it off just because the staff doesn't want to do it, well, yes, they'll be coming back almost immediately. But I have to find out exactly what the reason was. It can't be, I don't believe it's for the contraband issue, because you can go through the mail. Because you got guards there 24/7, and there is downtime. And if it has to delay the mail, get into the inmates by a day, well, so be it, but you have to go through the mail. So that's what I will look at that when I get in there, because I really don't understand why he did that.
He said it was because it was taking up too much staff time.
Well, we've done it for years. I don't know, the staff levels are the same now. Actually, there's probably a few more staff levels than there was before. Like I said, I'll have to take a serious look at that when I get in there.
So that's not really a good reason, then. Just staff time doesn't cut it.
Well, as far as I know, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if it's that shouldn't be a factor, because you do have third shift people that are there, and it's obviously normally the slowest time people are sleeping. The guards have their block checks, and yeah.
So if he's using that as a sole excuse, it's a faulty excuse.
Well, I don't. If that's his sole excuse, I don't know. Like I have to look. Like I said, I have to look at the numbers, look at the staff levels, but I can't. I don't believe that could be a legitimate excuse at this point. Now, like I said, I'll look at it when I get in.
Is the jail as it's currently set up safe?
No.
Why not?
Oh my God. Where'd you like me to start? Well, it's outdated for one. Your overcapacity will be about 100 and 125 people per day. And there's actually, if you look at DOC has one set of capacity and the county has another. So they go bicker back and forth on that. Well, it's outdated. It's the old style jail like you see in the movies. Okay, with the bars, the sliding doors, and when a guard goes to get somebody out of a cell, say there's a 12-man cell, which is usually 16 people in there, you open the doors, one guy opening the door, a metal door, you crank it, it's not safe for the guards at all. It's just outdated and needs to be replaced. You can't have that many people in, especially like today, it's a hot day. It's gonna be trouble in the jail today, I'm almost sure of it, because of the weather, how hot it is and how crammed it is. But it's overcrowded. The staff is, to get guards, inmates in and out, it's just, it's outdated. It's not safe to put the guards in with all those inmates by themselves.
Now, if you're elected sheriff, you have some say over who goes in there from the standpoint that you could order the road patrol officers countywide not to bring certain people in, give them an appearance ticket instead of incarcerating them, even for an evening or a few hours, correct?
On misdemeanor violations,
Okay.
you can write, some of them you can write appearance tickets for. Felonies, they have to, obviously
Right.
come to jail.
Right, so you could go ahead and just that one action alone saying, okay, if you have somebody in for, let's say, driving with license suspended, retail fraud, possession of marijuana, minor crimes that aren't harmful to the public at large, you could say to the road patrol officers countywide, look, don't bring them here, issue them an appearance ticket, and we'll deal with it at the appropriate time after it's adjudicated through the court system.
You could do, they could do that.
Now, I got a question to add on to that one. Currently, my understanding is that we have 65% of the people in jail are awaiting a trial.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that percentage, I'll take your word for it.
My question is, do you think that's average, a good percentage, a bad percentage?
Well, it depends what they're charged with, what their bonds are. There's the key, there's the bonds. You realize something, when a judge sets a bond, the bond is to ensure the person shows up for court. That's what the bond is for. It's not to penalize them or lock them up, it's only to show that they show up for court. So, if they can't afford the bond, well then they sit.
Right.
So, but it's, the judges set the bonds. So the sheriff can't say, okay, we're letting these people out because the bond.
A lot of my questions are not directly what the sheriff can do, it's
Oh,
what
okay.
influence they have on their.
Oh, okay, I understand.
I understand the limitations of your job
Right, you're,
description, but you have a lot of say on some issues where they can listen.
right.
So that's why I would,
Well, the sheriff should work with the judges and say, listen, we need to cut it down.
yeah.
But that's what the bonds are
I
there
mean,
for.
one example, which I have down farther, is the Ingham County Sheriff had started a program where they, nonviolent offenders there get sentenced to removing roadkill. As an example. The sheriff gives
Works
the
with the
option,
judges.
but has to work with the judges, so.
Right, that's a great option.
Yeah, that's, a lot of my questions are your opinion on it, not knowing that you can't do
Oh,
it all
okay.
yourself.
Right,
It's-
you have to work with the judges.
Right,
Yeah.
but to know your opinions on it.
Was, if there's a way to keep anybody out of being incarcerated by having, for like a minor crime, to do community service or assign, like to pay it back program, or just picking up trash someplace, I'm all for it. There's absolutely no reason for it. There's no reason why these guys should be sitting in jail doing nothing. I don't know if you guys ever been up there in the blocks, but it's not a picnic up there.
I ran for county commissioner in 1990, and I was given a tour of the entire jail except the evidence room.
Right.
And when I take a look at it, it's like the county has neglected it. And if they hadn't have neglected it for all these years, we wouldn't be having the problems we're having now. Do you think we need a new jail?
Oh, we absolutely need a new jail. We've needed a new jail for 25 years.
When you say new jail, do you mean a brand new building? Do you mean remodel an existing building? Do you mean remodel the current jail? Tell us what you mean. by
I
that.
suggest we build a whole new building. But first of all, let's go back to the history of this jail. The county paid a company to come in and remove the asbestos from this building. A few years ago, they had a new fire alarm system put in. The electrical contractor's up trying to run the conduit. He opens up the ceiling and it's full of asbestos. He says, we can't disturb this, obviously, because it's asbestos. So they run the conduit on the outside. Well, the county paid somebody to take this asbestos out. Nothing ever happened with it, but, and if you've been down in the basement of the jail,
Right.
that's where the lunchroom is for the guards, the deputies to eat their lunch. There is a good chance you're sitting there eating your lunch, there's gonna be a sewer fly landing on your sandwich. That's how, you've been in there, you know what it's like.
Right.
You know what the smell is like sewer down there? The building is wore out. It's served its purpose, it's old, it needs to be torn down. I don't think you could gut that building down enough to reuse it. I think you take my opinion is, you would take the Walton Street, on the north side of Walton Street, under eminent domain, take over the Firestone dealership and those law offices, tear that down, close Walton Street, build yourself a new facility there, large enough to hold, it's up to debate how big they want to make it, but you need to put the juvenile facility right there with it, attach it, use the same kitchen facilities. My guess is, it's probably gonna cost $30 to $50 million to build over the years. I don't know the exact figures of all of it, and tie it into the second floor of the county building. That's the plan they've had developed for years. I've seen the blueprints on it before. And take the old jail, once it's done, tear it down, put the parking lot, make it bigger over there. It needs to be done. It's a responsibility in the state constitution that the county has a jail. In another history of it, over 20 years ago, the U.S. Marshal came to the County Board of Commissioners and told the county board and the sheriff at the time that the federal government would pay them so much money towards the building of the new jail. The only thing they had to do was guarantee that they would have 10 beds available for federal prisoners. And the County Board of Commissioners back then said, no, we don't want the federal government in here telling us what to do. But if you look at Nuevo County, Kent County, Ottawa County, I believe they made the deal. They all have new jails.
Well, how many new beds, we've got now approximately 400 beds, give or take. I think 411 or somewhere.
Depends who you talk to.
It depends on who's counting.
Right, for DOC, it's about 355. If they want to use every bed, counting the holding tanks and everything, you're probably up to 428. But, it's always been a battle between what the state says you can have and what the county says you can have.
Let's say we have 400 now.
Just use it for figure, okay.
Okay. Is that a good number? Can we stay with 400?
We can use that for this demonstration here.
Right, but can we stay with, let's say, assuming a new jail is built, can we stay with the number 400?
I'd go a little larger.
How much larger?
Bring it up to at least 5. That way, if you need to, the problem you run into right now is with the state of Michigan, with the parole violators. What's happening is, say someone gets arrested on a new charge, a misdemeanor charge, and the county puts out say a PR bond. They can be released on the PR bond, but the parole officer has a hold on these people, so you can't release them. Well, the problem is the state won't pay the county for housing the person because they got a local charge. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So in reality, if he's out on a PR bond from on a new local charge, it's a state prisoner. They won't let us release him, they put a hold on him.
Isn't it axiomatic, though, that if you have the beds 450, 500, 550, 600,
Move it up,
they're going to be filled up regardless?
They're going to fill it.
So the number is almost irrelevant, because whatever it is, it's going to be filled. So isn't something...
It's just a possibility, because once you realize, the judges realize there's beds available, the judge's job is to take the bad people off the streets, the criminals off the street. They're going to say to lock them up. So you build it, they will come. That's the way it is.
So if you have 500 beds and all of a sudden it turns out that, say, the average population fluctuates 425, 450, and you're a judge, you're a prosecutor, you're a policeman, aren't you perceived as being soft on crime then, because we've got this jail with 50 beds that needs to be filled up?
No, I don't believe so. The thing of the new jail, when they build it, they need to have it be able to be sectioned out. Because there's people that are currently in the jail that are mentally ill. They don't belong in the same general population. And you have people like veterans that come in, they don't, they're post-traumatic stress syndrome, they shouldn't be in the general population. They should have a wing off to the side so the Veterans Administration can come in and CMH can come in and help these people. Because right now, you're in the general population, that's just the way it is. It's just, you need to have a different, when it's built, they need to break it down into different sections.
Doesn't that mean if there's a new jail, there's more staff and that costs the county even more money?
No, not necessarily. What happens is with a newer jail, you can actually have the inmates, you can speak to them over intercoms and go through the doors and just open the doors electronically. Where currently, you've been in the old jail,
Right.
you have the brass keys and
Right.
you can't, so-and-so come out here, everybody has to go get them. So you may not need more staff.
Well, what about the other costs, for example, healthcare, food, eating.
See, the healthcare issue, the problem with healthcare with the inmates is, it's mandated by law, you have to do it.
Right.
Which it's also the right thing to do. Some of these medical care, it's a moral issue to have people get healthcare. The problem is if you get someone that's into jail, that's terminally ill, for example, the county gets stuck paying the healthcare bills. You can't budget for that. You know, no matter what, they can try to say, well, we're going to put this much money in towards healthcare. Well, then you get some guy that comes in that's terminally ill, that has to have all these special treatments, that blows your whole budget. And you have to go back and ask the county board for more. It's a catch-22 in that situation, but you can't let the person back out. Because if he's sentenced to jail, the sheriff doesn't have the power to release people.
Right, but we're talking about the extra cost if there's more people involved, or
Well,
more people in the prison.
Well, there's the
Jail,
thing, right,
sorry.
the medical, you cannot, no matter, you can't budget for it. You just don't
Right,
have
I'm
it.
just-
In the food, you
I'm
have
just
to
stating
more
that
people, more
there's
food.
extra cost, not just
Right.
the officers on duty, there's an extra cost.
Oh, there's cost of
involved
food, yeah.
with
you know,
more people.
There's more water used, people use a lot of water, you know. But, yeah, if more people, more resources are gonna be used. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
And you can't, like, medical, you can't budget for it. Food you can budget for. Staffing levels you can budget for, but it's the unknown ones that you have the problem with, like the medical.
The sheriff is probably one of the highest constitutional officers in the county as far as powers and capabilities of accomplishing things to fulfill his role. We have a situation where the foreclosures have risen in the last few years and have become very, very noticeable. And what people used to just feel is, well, you didn't pay your mortgage. Since you didn't pay your mortgage, you're going to get foreclosed on. Now people are taking a lot closer look at that, and it turns out that the banks, when they foreclose, they don't have the promissory note. If you're elected sheriff, are you willing to go ahead and take a look at the technical aspects of foreclosure and what's required of the banks? And if they haven't fulfilled their proper role in foreclosing, would you tell them that you're not going to have a deputy do the foreclosure and that particular property won't be foreclosed on?
Well, what we need to do is, most of that's done by civil processors now, not done by deputies.
You have to be a deputy sheriff to have the...
Well, they have deputies' cards, but they're not our regular uniformed deputies. But they have to follow the procedures, and I'll make sure all the procedures are followed. And not just in that aspect, every aspect of the department. There's certain rules and laws that have to be followed, and they will be followed. It's an integrity of the office that has to be maintained. So yes, the laws will be maintained.
How has the incumbent not done that?
Well, I don't want to get into a mudslinging here, and, you know, let's talk, you want to bring out the bondsman issue. There's very specific rules what a sheriff can do with a bondsman, and he overstepped the boundaries. The law states the only thing a sheriff can do for a bondsman is list the area bondsman in alphabetical order throughout the jail, so people can call them. I don't want to get into a match, but you've been down here, you guys have seen the monitors up advertising a
Right.
certain bondsman's,
Right.
yeah, well, that's a violation. And then it also, the law says the sheriff cannot accept any gifts from a bondsman, or an attorney can't accept any gifts from a bondsman. There's a whole list of them. If should have brought it with me, I gave you the number, but those are very important integrity issues of the department. You can't do that.
So the line's been crossed.
It's been crossing down the road a ways.
Okay. All right. Another topic, you've been a policeman for quite some time, so you've pretty much dealt with most situations that a policeman would deal with. We had a situation where a Norton Sheriff's officer just shot and killed a man last week. And it turns out this is the very same officer who shot and killed a man less than 18 months ago. Does that raise suspicions about that particular officer?
No, I don't, not with me it doesn't. I would let the state police do their investigation as it was released in the news media. But you had to realize something, the 21-foot rule. That was in the news also. I was in the academy, we were taught that. If somebody comes at you with a knife and they're within 21 feet and you have your gun in your holster and they come at you, you do not have enough time at 21 feet to pull your weapon out and protect yourself before you can stab you or slice you up.
What about tasers? Can't you just tase them?
You got one, yeah, the tasers. You want to take your chance? Because those tasers shoot darts out at you. You ever shoot one of those tasers?
No, I didn't.
They come out with strings. So little wires is what they are. So you're taking a chance that the taser going to work. So if it's your life on the line, What would you do?
Well, don't you have the opportunity to retreat? If I recall correctly, the gentleman with the sword had it over his head.
See, I don't know the details of it.
You know,
But I'm not gonna second guess the officer that did, you know, he obviously thought someone's life was in danger or threatened. That would be my guess, because I wasn't there.
Right.
But the state police will do the investigation, and the state police are the ones that should make all the news releases on it, as the guy saw the news release. And one thing the sheriff did here is overstepped his boundaries. That's a prime example of not working with the other communities. One thing you realize about police agencies are very territorial. You notice, they like to handle their own issues, they like to have their own news releases. He overstepped his bounds here by running and jumping in front of the news camera. It was all political. So that's my opinion of it.
what other, getting back to this jail issue, and it's something that, there's obviously enough people out here that are concerned about the jail, and they're looking at it from the point of who really needs to be in jail. And I realize, as sheriff, you don't have control over who the judge sentences to jail.
Right.
But you do have some influence as sheriff to say, look, Your Honor, I deal with these people every day, my staff deals with them every day. We see who's brought into jail for temporary periods, we see who you sentence here, and would you recommend to judges that certain types of criminals are not sentenced to jail because they don't belong in there?
Well, they've got probation officers that do that, and pre-sentence investigators that already do that. So I'd continue to work with them, but yeah, there's people with mental issues.
Right.
They need to be sent to a mental. The state of Michigan's the one that's cut that out. So it's at a state level. They need to. But as to the judges, they're looking at it. What's the safety of the public? Yeah, the guy may be mentally ill, but he's a danger to public. We can't put him in a mental hospital, but we can put him into jail. It's a catch-22 for those guys too. They have a responsibility. The judges have a responsibility to the public to keep them safe. And you can't say, listen, this guy's mentally ill, he doesn't belong in jail. Yeah, right, he doesn't, he belongs in a hospital. But the state cut the funding for the hospitals, but we can't take the chance of having him get out and hurt somebody else. So a lot of it's going to deal with the state of Michigan on the mental health issues. That's just the way it is. But the sheriff doesn't have the power to say to the judge, hey, listen, we're not taking him in jail because he's mentally ill.
Well, I understand that.
The sheriff has to follow the law. But the problem is at the state level, they cut the funding.
Well, going with probation that you talked about, what is your opinion on using tethers and other types of electronic monitoring instead of putting them in jail?
I'm all for it. More the merrier. As long as you can keep track of them, they don't violate it. The electronic tethering devices are wonderful.
If we have electronic tethering devices and GPS devices, then we don't really need to go ahead and have a 500-bed jail and do it.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I would still recommend they do put the 500 bed for it, right around 500, just a figure number once you get the research done on it. But yeah, we do need a jail. Just, you gotta have it. We know we're at overcapacity every day. It's not gonna go up.
Isn't that, couldn't that overcapacity be manufactured though?
Manufactured how?
Well, let's say for instance that I'm a judge and I decide, well, hey, I could normally give this person a PR bond. I'm gonna set their bond at 8,000. They can't make the bond, they have to stay in jail. The percentage of people in there,
Are waiting trial.
are waiting trial. Now, can't somebody go in there and say, I know somebody in there right now.
Okay.
If it wasn't for alcohol, the guy would be relatively harmless. He's got $8,000 bond. He could be given a PR bond and like, oh, that's a bed that could be used for somebody who really needs to be in there. So why can't something be done to where there's a practical basis? This is something that's not, well, the sheriff has responsibilities according to the Constitution, according to law. There's also the practical matter of, look, sitting down with the judges and saying, look, this is who should be here, this is who shouldn't be here. I realize, Your Honor, you have final say on the matter.
Right.
But when I see a manufactured crisis here,
Right.
and
Well,
that's,
the sheriff doesn't have, you're right, the sheriff does not have the power to go tell the judge, listen, the guy doesn't belong in jail. The judge does have the ultimate power. And what's going on with that right now, I couldn't tell you if they're talking or not. I really don't, I don't know if they are. But people that have alcohol problems, a lot of them go through the DTs while they are in the jail. They watch them in a holding tank, medical watch. Oh, but yeah, it's like I said, it's up to the judges who set the bonds. But you realize something, the judge doesn't want the responsibility of letting someone else who has an alcohol problem, have them go out and get intoxicated, get behind the wheel of a car, kill somebody, then they come back and the judge and say, listen, you let him out of jail. So the judge is going, hey, listen, the judge has a responsibility to keep the public safe, and that's what, that's how I'm sure they're feeling. That's how I assume they're feeling. There's a liability factor there and a moral issue,
What's your command experience?
I've never been a command officer of the jail, just a union steward, and I've owned 2 businesses, and we have staff that works for us.
Going back, kind of with the alcohol, are you familiar, I believe it's called the SCRAMS? It's Tether that also tests for alcohol.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just as an option for letting them out, but still electronic monitoring.
That'd be great. We don't, the thing of it is, they have to be the one that are actually doing the test.
Well, it's a collar where the collar tests the sweat
Oh.
on the individual
Oh,
themselves.
I'm all for it.
I thought
Yeah,
that was,
anything that can keep the jail population down and keep the people in check so they're not gonna hurt the public. Most people, I'm very supportive of that.
okay. Assuming that a newer, bigger jail is built, what is or even with the current one, what is your opinion on holding prisoners specifically for pay for the state of Michigan?
I don't quite understand. You mean renting space out to the state?
Yeah. Currently, we rent out, I believe it's 36 of our beds to the state.
I don't think they actually rent them. They're actually they're state prisoners that are held on probation or parole violations. They're not. I don't believe they rent. If they are renting, that's news to me.
No, but
They're renting the whole state prisoners in the jail.
the county's getting paid $43.50 to hold.
A parole violator, on a detainer.
They didn't quite specify what it was that was being held.
Well, I'm
for.
sure they don't take people out of prison because the prison's full and bring them to the county jail and pay the county to house them. They don't do that.
My understanding was at sentencing, it was, I don't know if it was over, I'd have to look that back up, if it was over the 9 months but under the year or something like that. So, the non-violent ones that could go to the state prisons, instead of going, they've kept at the county.
I'm not familiar. Oh, you mean if the judge sends them to 9 months in jail?
Yeah, instead of sending them to state,
Okay, I understand.
they've
Yeah.
kept them here at the county, and then the state then pays the
The
money.
state house, well, that's again, the judge sentenced them to jail time. There you are again. The judge sentenced them to the jail, the sheriff has to keep them.
No, because he could have the sheriff had the ability to send them to,
If we have the ability to ship them out of the Muskegon, out of our financial responsibility to the state, because it's a state prisoner, they're going to the state as far as I'm concerned.
okay,
Unless there's some law or somebody orders them back here, said they have to stay here.
okay.
But there's no reason why the county should act as a facility, but I wasn't aware they were doing that. That's news to me.
That's been one of the justifications that Dean Roesler has done for building a larger jail, is that we can make money on housing prisoners for the state.
Well, I'm not familiar with that. I know that we used to have to pay like Calhoun County to house our prisoners years ago. And I know different counties go back and forth. But I wasn't aware the state was paying counties to house state prisoners. I know they did it. We did
My understanding
things
is,
like that.
the last 2-3 years, it's been a newer policy under Grant Home to help.
Well, there's a problem with that because of the liability factors and the health issues that, if it's a state prisoner in the county jail, who's responsible for the health costs? Is it the county's health responsibility or is it the state's responsibility? There's the questions you have to ask yourself. Because why should the county get stuck paying for it? Because most people, when people get sentenced to prison only in violation of state law, not local ordinances. So when people get criminally charged, it's the people of the state of Michigan versus so-and-so. And that when they're convicted, then they get sentenced to the state penitentiaries, prisons.
Isn't there something now where there's a 2-year misdemeanor and...
It's a high court misdemeanor.
High court misdemeanor, they can essentially say, okay, you can do longer than a year in county jail? The judges decide to do that?
Well, they can do that. I think they usually ship them out though. As far as what I know of it, they do. I'm
I've never heard of anybody being in jail for over a year, that's what I've heard.
Oh, I've seen people in jail
have-
waiting trial.
Awaiting trial.
I mean, for, capital crimes.
Right.
One other question I have, I asked about the state, and you kind of mentioned with the Fed having 10, you would prefer having the 10 beds in order to help cut the cost on building the new jail.
Oh, absolutely.
I've also been told by one of them running for prosecutor that it's possible to actually house federal prisoners and make money off of that.
Well, if you have open beds, but the way I understand the program worked, well, it did before, was they pay so much for the jail, but you have to guarantee them 10 beds at any given time. You can't turn them away. Not that they're going to use them every day, but they have to be available. And for me, I think that's a great opportunity for the county to help, build a jail. 10 beds, it's...
What percentage of help do we get? Do they pay for half of the new construction cost? Do they
I
pay
don't
for
know.
25%? If they pay for the whole jail, now all of a sudden things change a little bit.
Oh yeah, now they're talking. I don't know what the percentages are. But that, like I said, that was 20 years ago.
Right.
So I don't know if they still have that program going out, but that was a U.S. Marshal 20 years ago that came to the county board that did that. But like I said, the other area counties took that off. Muskegon didn't.
I think you pretty much covered the other questions I had.
Do we presently have a good deputy inmate ratio?
Well, for safety reasons, I'd have to probably say no. Because of the situation at the jail, it's outdated. You need, it's unsafe for the people to be working in that jail because they were in with the inmates.
Okay, but a lot of the inmates are there for, I was on the sheriff's website the other day. We've got 40 people in there for drug offenses, 17 in there for drunken driving.
That changes almost every day, the driving ones.
Right, 7 in there for not paying child support, 2 in there for open receptacle.
For open receptacle.
Open receptacle, believe it or not.
That's one of the misdemeanors you're talking about, writing a ticket for.
Yeah, it's like, then there's there's like 6 people in there failing to register as a sex offender. It's like, I know that if you have somebody in there, they're holding them for attempted murder, they're holding them for armed robbery.
Felony charges.
Serious felony charges. That's something that if I was a guard in there, I would be wary of, and I would be very aware of how I could handle that individual. But if you got somebody that they're in there for these little misdemeanors, they're really no threat to the public, and
They're probably waiting to see the judge.
they're probably waiting to see the judge. It's like, how is the guard going to feel threatened, or how is there going to be a safety problem between the guard and the inmate for something like that?
Well, there's numbers. It's the numbers. Well, you realize when you're in a holding tank down in the receiving area, there's so many people down there. That same poor guy that's had a MIP or open receptacle ticket or charge could be in the same tank with the guy that's in there for murder, or could be, they could be in that same holding tank. There's no separation down there. You got 6 temporary holding facilities in the receiving area. And usually 1 or 2 are set up for medical reasons. So they get 24-hour watch. So it's not, the jails, it's just outdated. Everybody who's ever walked in there, did a study of it, realizes it's outdated, realizes it's not safe. It's not, the cleanliness of it, because the sewer gases come up in the basement. It's just, it needs to be replaced.
Do we as a society incarcerate too many people?
I don't know, matter of opinion, I don't know, I never really thought about it.
Sheriff's road patrol, is that adequate?
Well, if you do a comparison between Muskegon and Ottawa County, because of the county to our south, we are majorly understaffed. If you look at, we run a sergeant usually, and then a lieutenant that runs a road patrol. And you have your deputies, you have a few PINS officers left. I think Layton Township has one, which is funded by their township. But the rest of them are pretty much open you know, 1 or 2 guys, but they're on 12-hour shifts, so they overlap a little bit now. But if you look at the number of people that live in the townships and villages, they also pay their tax dollars, and what do they get for it? They get a county's road patrol. They don't use the majority of the jail issues and the CMH money in the county is used by the core cities. Not that the outlying areas can't use them, but they don't, you know, they don't have the, they want the county's road patrol. You shouldn't, I'd like to see the Sheriff's Department road patrol run between at least 6 to 8 cars a shift, but I don't think it's gonna happen for financial reasons.
But is there situations where somebody calls for service and the car doesn't get there for 4 hours, 3 hours, 2
Well,
hours?
it happens. When I was working years ago on second shift, we had 3 cars for the whole county. I was a wild card. I was out in Cazenovia Township, and I had a call up in White River Township. Well, I don't care how you look at it, from Cazenovia Township to White River Township, it's a 45-minute drive, no matter how you look at it. And along the way, if an emergency call comes up, you take the emergencies first. So when I got to this house up there in White River Township, the guy came out and started giving me some grief about it, and I, nice as I could be with him, I said, "Look, I can explain something to you. I got a map of Muskegon County out, laid it out on the hood of my car. I said, let me explain something to you. I'm sorry it took us so long to get here. I said, but this is a map of Muskegon County. These are the areas we're covering. We have 3 deputies patrolling this area." I said, I got the call. I was in Cazenovia Township. I said, here we are in White River Township. And the guy just said, "I'm sorry to bother you." I said, "No, you're not a bother." I said, "I understand your frustration, but you need to call your county commissioner. We don't have the manpower. You know, it doesn't work. You need more. There's not enough police officers to go around out there."
How long has that been a problem?
Oh, God. 20 some years. We had more PINS officers a few years back, but the townships are running out of money, and they said, "Listen, we can't afford it no more," so they eliminate the PINS officer. But
Can't the state police pick up the slack now that we have that detachment that's been in the township for so many years?
have you heard the state's broke? Everybody's broke.
We have heard that rumor.
I have one more question, and we probably should wrap it up. Do you support, or would you be encouraging trying to get a specific millage to increase the road patrol?
No, I don't believe so. I'm a firm believer that the taxpayers of Muskegon County pay their tax dollars for mandated services, okay? One of the mandated services is the Sheriff's Department, including the jail and the road patrol. Some people argue that the road patrol is not a mandated service, but there's a circuit court ruling that says the sheriff must have deputies available to take emergency calls, so there must be a road patrol. Instead of having special millages for your mandated services, I would like the County Board of Commissioners to come forward and say, let's ask for millages for our things that are not covered as mandated services. And that's what I would do.
Do we need a millage for the jail?
I wouldn't want a millage for the jail because it's a mandated service. It's non-mandated services that people should have millage for. But you have to realize something, the County Board of Commissioners, the libraries used to be under general fund, they have a special millage for that. The veterans used to come out of general fund, they have a special millage for that. The 911 millage, that was all out of general millage, you know, all these other millages as they go on, they were all out of general fund originally. Right, they're not mandated services, but the jail and the Sheriff's Department is a mandated service, as is the courts. So you got to concentrate on your core responsibilities. Anything beyond your core responsibilities, if people want the services, they need a millage to support them.
So essentially, you're saying that the county for decades has been derelict in its duty to provide mandated services that the public should be receiving, and spending the money on God knows what else. Well, the mandated services suffer, and now we get in these predicaments that we get into.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as that, but what I would say is they're not cooperating with everybody, looking what's the best interest of Muskegon County. You know, they're trying to please everybody. You know, we're at the point financially, we have to get to the core services that are mandated. And it's not like the old days when the money was flowing in and the state revenue share was flowing in and everything was hunky-dory, you could fund everything. Well, when the funding stops, you have to, just like at your house, you know, let's just use an example. You have your house, you have your house payment, or you want to go on vacation. What are you paying this month? You know, you have to cover your core expenses before you have a good time. At least that's what I was brought up.
Same with me. Anything further you wish to add that we haven't covered?
No, just a vote for me August 7th. Democratic primary, John J. Jurkas.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.